Hello, welcome. Hi, guys. Welcome to a new episode of Worlds Collide, the podcast where I talk to people who moved abroad. And I am your host, Victoria. I hope you don't mind the rain in the background, but it's raining pretty hard right now. But I mean, it's a nice noise, right? Anyway, enough of that. So I want to come to this week's episode. And this week we talk about moving to a country that we haven't talked about before. Do you guys remember COVID? Ugh, right? Ugh, of course you remember COVID. And I get it, nobody wants to talk about it anymore. Me neither, usually. But this is how my next guest's story starts. Her name is Cathrine. And as you will hear, she moved from Manila to a small town in Sweden. So we talk a lot about the strong contrasts she experienced. But of course, as always, I don't want to take away too much. But her story is very inspiring, actually, for every expat, in my opinion. So listen to Cathrine's story. Here it is. So my guest today is Kate. Hey, Kate, how are you?
Hello, hi Victoria. Really good. I don't know if you see me, but I'm actually in my gym clothes right
Oh,
now.
that's fine.
Um, so I really just wanted to make this day as productive as possible, and I'm really happy to have you as part of my schedule today. It's just nice to meet people this way as well, right?
Yeah, it is.
So
It is. That's true. I'm glad you made room for me besides the gym. So
well, I mean, there's something about meeting people in different ways and means, right? I mean, there could be LinkedIn, these groups,
right.
at the gym. So it's just healthy, I think.
Right. So tell me, where are you right now?
So right now I'm in this small town. This small town is called Engelholm. It's located in the south of Sweden.
Uh-huh.
Guess that would be the best way to
Yeah.
explain it. And right now the weather is a bit gloomy and gray, but it's a typical situation here.
Typical Swedish morning.
Warmer. Yes, yes. But it's getting better because, like, people become better human beings here as summer,
As summer approaches.
yes,
Right.
yes.
Where are you from originally?
So actually, I was born and raised in Manila,
Ah,
Philippines. And
okay.
now that I'm here in Engelholm, Sweden, maybe you could already have an idea of the contrast, right? Because as you
Totally.
know, Manila is a crowded, dense place.
Yes.
It's also in the metro, in the metro, so to speak. But in here, like I said, it's a small town
Small
and it's pretty
town.
quiet. Yes.
So you have not just like the difference of totally different culture, but also you went from super big city to small town.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
And let's not forget the weather.
Yeah, for sure. The climate is
Like,
also
the sun. I was raised in a tropical country wherein it's pretty much rain or shine. And in here you have four seasons, right? But despite having four seasons, usually 6 months of the year, it's kind of like dark and
mm-hmm.
gray.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how did you end up there?
Actually, it's not a funny, but it's an interesting story because I moved here over 4 years back, and it was actually during COVID.
Mm.
Manila went on the lockdown, and my companies, Super Tap, my Kuya, Machine Ventures, so they're all located in Asia, and I don't know if you could even still remember what happened during COVID. Everyone was on a panic. Countries went on a lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
I actually took the last flight out from Manila. I went to San Francisco for a few weeks just to be with my family for a
Uh-huh.
bit because my family is based in the Bay, and so I just went home and just made time for them.
Uh-huh.
Um, Quite a strange way to reunite, though, if you
Yeah, yeah,
if you ask.
yeah.
Stay in a hotel. My parents were, I have to make sure that I'm not carrying that time that I wasn't carrying anything. And so I had to stay in a hotel, meet my dad like meters away, just for the sake of seeing each other. It was a strange
So
way to
weird.
reunite.
Because
And so,
especially I remember California and the Bay, they were so strict for the
oh,
COVID.
yes.
They were like one of the strictest one, at least here in this country, I think.
I do remember my experience, and I would have to agree with you. Really strict, and not even like food. Like food, they weren't served in hotels,
Mm-hmm.
You were really left to think, okay, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
And like I said, I took the last flight out, so it was very hectic.
right.
The airports were like full of people. I took the last plane. um, and so I went to the US, and I stayed with my family for a few weeks. And then that time, with my then partner lived here.
Okay.
What happened was, after a few weeks of being with my family, I stayed here. I'm not sure if you followed the news that time, but Sweden didn't have any
That's
lockdowns.
right. They had something going on, just like a lockdown for elderly people or something like that, was it?
I'm not even sure if they use that word, because it just feels so feels so strong.
Yeah,
Lockdown word here. So business as usual here that time. No lockdown, so people were still allowed to go anywhere pretty much.
uh-huh.
And I guess with culture, if I can even share this, like, Swedes are they really mind their distance, they mind their space.
Okay, so they're not so, like, close, like,
No,
in your
no,
face.
not like,
Uh-huh.
no, not like. And so I moved here during that time. And when I moved here, I was like, oh, that's good, because there are not like no lockdowns, business as usual.
Mhm.
I would just have to work remotely. And I still had this sense of freedom, because I do like to
Right.
take my walk, my hikes, and just be
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So that was the time that I moved. But really, it was a strange experience, if you ask me.
Why was it strange? Because of the COVID
Strange.
or
Usually when you fly, when you fly out, and you fly out to reunite with your family or to reunite with your loved one, there's this picture in your head, right? Like, that you could physically hug them or kiss them,
yeah.
close to them. But that wasn't the case, if you think about
Mhm.
it. And like, just being there but still being so far. And
Yeah.
it's just a strange way to reunite, I feel. And yes, I mean, I guess that would wrap up my story as to like how I ended up here. I moved here over 4 years back, and it has been an adventure ever since. So I was with my then partner. Right now, I'm with my new partner, and I happen to be a bonus mom as well of three kids.
Oh,
So a lot
okay.
of things,
Lot of
a lot of
changes.
exactly.
And,
So
so that town where you are right now, was it like the hometown of your then partner? Or why did you choose, I mean, for example, not Stockholm or any other big city?
No. So when I moved here, I moved in this small town as well. It's called Uskastrom, but it's close. It's close to Halmstad, which is like a city.
Mhm.
So that was then. But of course, now that I'm with my new partner, it this is where he lives. It would be more sustainable
Mhm.
and more reasonable for us to live together. And so, to say that I have chosen the location where I am right now,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. It's more of, it's the partner. It's
Ah,
my partner shows,
okay.
and everything that comes with him now is part of my life as well, which include where I am.
Right,
So
okay, that makes sense then. Right. How big is the city? So, I just wonder if there are a lot of other people from abroad where you are, or are you like special?
um so actually, I don't to be honest, I don't really have the numbers
Uh-huh.
for this question, but I wanted to say that I'm an active member of Expats in Engelholm. So
Okay.
it's a group of international individuals who happen to move and live
I
because of,
see.
say, a partner. If they, let's say, they study, they need to study in this area or work in this area. So
Mhm.
it's one of those groups that I started joining maybe months after I moved in with my
Okay.
partner last year. And it's a fair number. Like, each event, maybe about 30 people
Well,
would show
that's like
up.
a great idea that you did this. That's actually pretty cool. So, you always have like meetups. What do you guys do?
So I think the last one was, we went to an I was gonna say, like, a museum,
Mhm.
aircraft music
Uh-huh.
museum. So we have like an airstrip here, like a base. And so we also have Koenigsegg. Koenigsegg is like one of the fastest cars in the world. So they're actually manufactured here in this
Mm.
small town.
So this
So
is why you have like a lot of business travel or like people who work
uh,
from abroad? Is this what?
maybe,
Yeah, maybe.
maybe, I mean, maybe it's one of those reasons, because, like, it's a small town, but it is where we do have companies here. But I think one that is, how do you say that? Not famous, but one that is worth noting is like, Ferrari, Ducati, these
Yeah.
types of like fast cars. So we have an equivalent here. It's called Caneseg, and it happens to be in our town. So I think they're a team of like 600 people, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe not. But we do have expatriates in this area for reasons that they probably ended up with a partner who
Right.
who lives here, or they also have to work here.
Mm-hmm.
Different stories, really.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to when you first arrived in Sweden. Have you visited before?
Oh yes, I've visited Sweden way like maybe five times,
Okay,
four
all
times
right. So you
before
knew what
moving.
to expect.
Yes,
Yes.
but look, it's different. You know what to expect as a foreigner, but it's different to know what to expect as a local.
Yeah.
Or a soon to be local,
Right,
so to
right.
speak. When I moved here, I had this notion that of course I will be here for a bit or for a few years.
Uh-huh.
But I guess, sometimes, because right now I'm more decided to be here because of course now that I do have three bonus
Children.
children,
Uh-huh.
it means that you kind of have to make decisions, right? Even if they are not my own and I have them every other week, I
Uh-huh.
I am in a very like complete relationship with
Mhm.
my partner right now, and so I it makes sense for me to find my footing in this
Yeah.
area. And that's the reason why I started joining expats in Engelholm. I even created my own group here
Uh-huh.
with a core team of seven lovely women. Venda is the name of our leader. So the name of the group is called Cooking for Integration.
Okay.
So we basically created this group, and it's also led by women, all seven of us. And our usual plan every event is to make food,
Mhm.
to make the type of food that represents where we came from
Okay.
or
All right.
represents where we had been, and then we use that as a channel for us to socialize, to get to know each other, to relate, because there are stories of expatriates that as a local you will never understand, the joys and the pains of moving, the things that you have to go through just for you to settle
Yeah.
down, learning the language, there's like a lot. And I think only, not foreign, but only people who move around will understand it.
Yeah. So everybody in your group is from somewhere else?
Yes.
Yes.
Or has been, yes, exactly.
That is nice. I mean, food is such a nice way of sharing it, right? Because it's always such a big part of the culture.
It is, and it represents as well a lot of things, right? Like, let's say, I I'll give an example. I was born and raised in the Philippines. I got accustomed to Filipino food, but if you think about it, the Philippines was colonized by the
Mhm.
Spaniards for 300 years. So even the type of food that we eat, the names of our food, there's like a culture and a culture. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
they are
mean? And then of
probably
course,
connected somehow, right? So there are very similarities.
yes, and then you take that with you, and then you introduce that to your group,
Yeah.
and that kind of gives you this knowledge, and like a knowledge base eventually. Like, oh, do you know that in this country?
What was when you moved there? What was the biggest difference for you?
I think the biggest difference is like, I think Filipinos in general, and I would have to speak this way, like in general, we're more open and communal. But I think
Mhm.
people here are more privy, like they value their privacy a lot. They value their space. They value they maintain distance.
Yeah.
So I was also raised from I do have a close family, like we're closely knit. So even if my family is based in the Bay, and like let's say I'm in some other, some in the Philippines
Mhm.
or in here, we keep in touch as much. But it's very family centric,
Okay, yeah.
like
Mhm.
but in here, people are more into their
I
individual
see.
life. So it's funny because like me and my partner, we even spoke about it. Like his brother lives nearby.
Mhm.
My family lives in the Bay, in
Yeah.
the US. and I had been probably in Philippines or in Singapore, wherever, or even here. But I see my family more than
Then he sees his brother who lives right next to.
in the other. Yes, exactly, in the same city.
That's crazy,
So
right? If you think of
yes,
it,
but for
yeah.
me, it's need. Like I have this need, and I think Filipinos in general, since we are closely bonded to our
Mm-hmm.
family, have this need. But I guess for some people, it's like it's a given that it's optional. It's not something that you would have to need, but rather it's there. It's just
Yeah.
there. That makes
Yeah, it
sense.
does make sense. I
So
mean,
just
it's a
mhm.
big difference, but I expected you probably to say something else. But I don't even know why what, but I thought like whatever certain habits that the Swedes have.
Not habit, but so they do fika. They do fika a
What
lot.
is fika?
Uh, Fika is like it's a concept wherein you take breaks for coffee. So they
Ah,
usually have it in specific times, but they use it as a way to also gather people, to gather, to take breaks, to kind of be together for, certain minutes or specific
this is
minutes, and then
like
they
for
go.
work or
Do you know? So when we were in school, I don't know. It's kind of like an equivalent of recess, but
uh-huh. Right, right, right.
it's specifically when you say, okay, let's fika, that means coffee.
Ah, a
You
coffee break kind of thing.
Yes, a
Yes,
coffee
uh-huh.
break, right? In the Philippines, we have this thing called merienda. Merienda is like an equivalent, but of course, if you listen to it, doesn't well, it sounds Spanish, right? But it's kind of like sorry, yeah, merienda. So it's like wherein you usually do it in the afternoon to just eat,
Oh, okay.
like
Right.
time.
Like snack
So maybe
time. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Um, what else? The greetings. So the greetings. So for Swedes, or at least me, they usually greet by hugging.
Uh-huh.
Hugging long,
Yeah.
maybe seconds long.
Okay. And what about you?
In the Philippines, we do beso again from
Oh,
Spanish. Beso,
kisses.
cheek to cheek, or
I see.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
So
I
differences, right?
yeah,
When you
yeah.
do,
I mean, that is always interesting. I mean, I guess so I'm from Germany, so I guess we just shake hands. You know, like with your friends, you hug. And then the kissing is, I mean, a lot of other cultures. The Netherlands do that and the French.
yeah,
But we just really formal shake hands. Yeah. I think like, my dad, he was so formal. They're not like very emotional. So for example, even
right.
my dad shakes my hand.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? But it's your norm, right?
Yeah, I guess I mean my mother not. My mother is also like culturally more like from Poland. But
Okay.
so they not. They're like a little bit warmer when it comes to like family
Okay.
and greeting, but my dad was very just very German, very formal, just shake
Very
hands.
serious.
So yeah.
That's funny. But I mean, you see the
Uh-huh.
differences, right? I think that's what makes the experience charming to you. You're basically not just capturing one side, but rather different
Yes, and
sides
is
or
there anything that you don't get used to from all these differences? Or I mean, not
actually,
get used to, but that it's maybe a little bit harder to.
I think the climate for one. I never knew that I had seasonal affective disorder until I
I
moved
mean,
here.
but you are extreme because it's so dark a lot of times. Yeah, I mean, you're in the south of Sweden, could be worse, but like still, it's dark.
But you can also imagine where I came from.
Yeah,
I came from the
you're like
Philippines.
from sunshine
So
like all the time.
exactly. There's sun, and of course for the first 4 years I have to get used to, when it's summer there's still like light at 11, and the,
Yeah.
the change, right? And so I never actually knew that I had seasonal affective disorder until I actually moved here 4 years back, because I noticed the difference in my mood, my
Yeah.
behavior, it just affects you. The
Yeah.
weather just affects you in some way. And so that one, I don't know how people do it. Maybe, it's funny because I've actually asked my friends here, like, how do you do it? How do you get used to it? And they were like, well, we never got used to
Yeah.
it. What are you?
Yeah.
So even if they were like born and raised here, it doesn't change the fact that they're still not used to it 30 years after. So yep. So that's one. I think it's more of the weather. And then Swedes are not, again, I'm speaking like in general
Mhm.
here. if you know the history of Sweden, they haven't really been. This country has never been into war for the last, I don't know, hundreds of
Yeah.
years, right? It also gives you an idea of the culture. So they basically like, as well, like before, they were
They're
neutral.
they're
They
just
don't really
like
want.
I mind my business kind of. Um
Yes, and or no, 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 it's more neutral. Exactly,
yeah.
but you have there. Like they want to stay neutral. I think I might be too strong to say like it's a country that I find like averse to conflict, like just doesn't want to have
Mm-hmm.
conflict. But we also have to know that if you don't want conflict, it means you're not also making a stand, right?
Right.
But I've this side of me, I don't think it's very Filipino. It's very American, wherein I get to the point quickly. If it doesn't sit with me, you will hear it from me.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But in here, you have to like pacify your tone by using perhaps, maybe, I guess, even if you already, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Just to by the statement in itself. And it's something that I haven't gotten used to kind of soften the tone, I think. And then and another difference as well is when you speak to show engagement. This one I didn't get it from like a Filipino way, but rather American way. Usually the sign of engagement is when you do tit for tat, right? When you speak, I speak in a way I overlap by seconds because I'm just so engaged. So
Yeah.
that's a sign of engagement. But in here, pauses are not, it's not even as almost mandatory, but pauses have to be there in order for you to show that you're engaged. Otherwise, if you do this overlapping thing that we're doing right now, it will be considered as rude.
It's like interrupting. You should talk to my husband. He will hate you.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
It's
Yes,
like, oh no, interruptions.
right. But in like it's a sign of engagement, but in
Yeah.
here of being rude.
Oh,
And in
I
order
never
for you
even like
to
thought of that. I mean, honestly, like, I mean, for me, it's similar as you say. Like, you're kind of interacting, so you show that you are there, that you're paying attention. And
right.
then when you have like a gap, it's like, it's weird. Kind of feel. It feels like,
In here it's
right?
not. It's the way for them to think that you're internalizing your statements
Ah,
and then for
internalizing.
and
Oh, that's
then
a good way of saying it. I will do this next
um,
time.
right. I also wanted to share because it's funny because my partner actually shared this with me. But I've been to Japan a few times, but I never really recognized it when I went to Japan a few times. But he encountered someone who is Japanese, and they spoke, but he was closing his eyes. And for us, if we think about it, why are you closing your eyes?
Uh-huh.
You're not here, you're not listening, but actually they're taking it in. So
Ah.
it's just culture, right? That's
Yeah,
that's
so
the
different. Yeah. Your partner, he's born and raised in Sweden?
yes,
So,
yes.
was this ever like a conflict between you two?
Oh
I
yes.
imagine. Yes. It's like, why are you always interrupting? And then you are like, why are you not like listening?
Exactly, but no, I'm listening. Like, I could even, give you a word per word of what you just said like 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So, that's one. I mean, it's common. It's not like an argument or anything.
Right.
You would just figure out, or you would just observe the differences that are there. So
Hmm.
I'm more direct. Like, I don't like this. This is how it should be. This is how I
But
communicate.
is
But
this then more like taken as an offense?
I think he's just well, they're more into a softer way of
Mm-hmm.
delivering by using the words perhaps, and we joke about
Mm-hmm.
this usually. He was like,
Yeah.
"You're never sweet." He said, "You're never gonna be a full sweet if you don't start using perhaps, maybe, I guess," because that's kind of
Okay. All right. And so I want to ask you about your Swedish. How is do you speak Swedish?
yes, yes. I speak Swedish. So actually, so when I moved over 4 years ago, one of the first things I did was to actually go to this program called SFE. It's called Swedish for Immigrants. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but that time I was working remotely and I had my businesses. And again, it was like a fast thing that happened right when I come on, I took the last flight out, I moved, and it was I could almost like say that most of it wasn't planned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was very spontaneous.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
when I moved here and I had to take that program, I was still delegating some of, tasks because I also, from my move, I also got promoted to being a partner and a director
Oh
for
wow.
those.
Okay.
So, so I was like, no, I don't think I can do this during the
Uh-huh.
because my classes were in the morning. But at the same time, I don't use Swedish at work, you know. So
Ah, okay.
I was like, okay, I don't use Swedish at work, and at the same time, my then partner, I mean, he speaks fluent English, and as well as his family. So
Mm.
like, oh, I'm not saying what's the point. Of course, there is a point for why you have to speak it, especially for my future plans. But that time, I said, okay, 3 months in, I said, I don't think it's even reasonable for me to push this, so I stopped, and then now I
Okay.
reinstated my studies because, of course, now there's a plan, and when I say there's a plan because I really wanted to reinstate my healthcare route here. I'm also a licensed nurse apart from other things that I do. But the only way for me to take my licensure here is in Sweden. It is in
Is in
Sweden, which
Swedish.
means I would have to speak the language. So I'm like 2 months, 2 weeks in now.
Okay, so this is still kind of fresh.
Yes, it is still fresh.
Uh-huh.
Earlier, I was actually reading my assignment to my partner just to see if he understands my Swedish in the way that I speak and the way that I write. So
And
good so far.
good so far. Um, so and this is just like kind of like a college class, or is this like at a, or do you just do it like online, or how do you do?
So I have to be in school 3 times a week every morning. And then there are
Uh-huh.
2 days wherein I self study at home.
Okay, so it is kind of intense.
It is, it is. And
Yeah.
considering I'm also working.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you have no time for anything.
Oh, no, I mean, I think I don't believe that though. I mean, we're all given 24 hours a day, and it's
Okay.
where you give your yeses to. And so I do have time to study. I still have time to work uh,
Uh-huh.
on an advisory role for my companies in Asia. I also am running an expansion project here, but also just an hour or two of my time every day. And then I still have time for myself. So I time block. Like it's
Yeah.
very important for me to have self-care and plan self-care as much as I plan for the other aspects of my life. So it's something that I don't negotiate.
Okay. What is there that you really like?
In Sweden, you mean?
Uh-huh.
One thing I like about this place is that they really respect nature. I mean, people here
Mhm.
respect nature and they really look after. I mean, sustainability is such a strong word here.
Yeah.
It
That's what
is.
I think about like all the Nordic countries. It's always, if it comes to environment, I feel they're very progressive.
It is. It is. And of course, I can't help but, because in here, just like, let's say I consume soda bottles and, soda cans and,
Yeah.
pant is what they call it here, wherein you basically keep it. I mean, you kind of collect and then there's a designated area for you to dispose it and then you get funds for it, right? Which is a nice motivation. Like it
Mhm.
encourages people to do it. But even
Yeah, it
without
does.
it, people would do it anyway. But I
Yeah.
guess in the Philippines, it's a different story. So
Right. I mean, I know it in Germany they have the same system for plastic bottles and for cans, for aluminum cans.
yes, so they
So
have the
you
same.
always get, I think, I mean, I don't know. I haven't lived there in such a long time, but it
Mhm,
was like 25 cents per bottle or something.
right. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's the idea of making it a habit to actually collect.
Right. And I know from there are actually, so for example, like in the summer everybody's outside in a park and people leave their trash there, and
Mhm.
then there are people who are collecting the bottles, you know.
Right.
So I mean it's usually like a lot of homeless people or like people with not a big income, but they go and collect them, and then in the end of the day they return them, and then they get a little bit of money for it.
Yes. So actually, there's this system here too, but in the Philippines, they don't have that. And to be honest, I like this system because
Mhm.
we look after the environment. We only have one home right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And so it is our responsibility to keep our home livable, so to speak, right, for our generation and their generations to come. So.
I'm curious though, was it hard for you to follow that, the rules they have there for the recycling, or for, no.
If you ask me, I don't think because even if look, I lived in the Philippines, my family's based in the US. I've also stayed in other countries. So, but at the end of the day, it's how you work, right? And for me, I really value, I really feel like we are responsible for our home,
Mm-hmm.
which is earth. And so those little things count. So in that sense, I didn't have a hard time adjusting
Yeah.
because I myself recycle
Yeah.
wherever I go.
Yeah.
So it's not, that is something that's not dependent on where I live. It's something that I am like, that's
Mm-hmm.
just how I'm built.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm similar to you then in that aspect. I'll do that too. Like I get offended that we don't have compost here, so we just started our own. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
they have a different system there.
yeah,
Just just throw it, just toss it, and then yes. Yeah.
yeah. What do you miss though, living in a smaller place? Or is this, do you like it better being in a smaller town than versus
Oh,
big
that is,
Manila?
I cannot pick. I'm the type of person who doesn't want to pick. I want to have both. So,
Uh-huh. Okay.
so so if you ask me this question, because both have, like, it has its own charms. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, I am a person, I'm a go-getter in that sense. Like, I like the idea of being productive. I like the idea of helping out other people, being in the service of other people, keeping myself sharp. And so if you listen to me, you might think, okay, she fits, she's more of a city girl, which I think
Mhm.
Linus, my partner, he would associate me as a city girl. But at the same time, I also like the idea of a slow-paced life.
Okay.
And it's actually nice because I'm working remotely. Everything is technically remote for me. Like, my family is somewhere else.
Yeah.
My friends are spread globally. My work is not here. They're in Asia, and they're also in the US and in Europe. So my digital space is a bit cluttered. And when I say
Uh-huh.
cluttered, like, it's very productive and very, like, if you can almost compare it to a city life.
Okay.
But it's nice, my physical space, I'm in this calm setting. So do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It kind of like gives you this balance that, okay, maybe digitally you're living in a city, but physically you're in a small town. So that gives me this
Uh-huh.
sense of balance in a way.
Yeah.
Because in here, you know what, if you feel like taking a break, you just walk. Like, you just walk outside. It's clean. I mean, it's clean. We're close to the beach here,
Oh,
by the way, and
nice.
there's like trails. And it's not something that you would really have to pull out your resources just to do. You know what I mean? It's right there.
That is really
um
convenient. I mean, sounds like a really nice location.
Yeah, like earlier, me and my partner, we just wanted to take a break from, because he was also working and I was working, and you take a break and just you simply go out. And we even went as far as like being in one of those jetties, and then we just stay there and talked. Right? I mean, for in if you live somewhere else, like let's say you lived in New York, that's gonna sound like a luxury.
Yeah, yeah,
You
it
know what I mean?
does. It does. I mean, you cannot even escape the noise. So,
Right. So there are charms. Like, there's the charm with living in the city and living in a small
uh-huh.
town, I feel. So
And what do you miss?
I think if the question is what I miss about the city life, I think it's the lights.
Okay.
Because the lights give you this sense of energy.
Uh-huh. The the
Small
the
buildings,
night,
city
like
lights.
skyline in the
Yes,
evening.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
And I am a view person, which means for every city that like, I used to travel a lot, and for every city that I visited, I made sure to go to the tallest tower.
Okay.
That's one of my things to do. And then I just want to visit and then see the skyline.
Okay.
I like looking up. I like looking at this. I just like the idea of seeing city lights.
Mhm.
Certain, but of course, in like when you live in a small town, you're not gonna see that. You're gonna see stars.
Yeah, which is also nice.
Stars. I love. I mean, we even have a star projector here. That's how.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I sleep with literally like stars still. I can't say I miss the noise.
Okay.
Can't say I miss that. I like the noise, but in here it's controlled because it's a small town, like I said. But of course, in the city, the noise would be like maybe 24/7. Because, when I lived in the Philippines, my apartment was literally, well, I lived in Bonifacio Global City. It's like a cosmopolitan area where, the biggest malls, it's like the place to be, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And parties everywhere, people everywhere. So if you think about it, wow, it's an energizing crowd. But when it's time to sleep, as you hear it,
Right.
like, no, I don't want
Right. No, I didn't even think of that. True.
Yes.
But what do you miss from the Philippines?
Actually, I miss the food.
Okay.
I do miss the food. I do miss the location where I lived, which is of course in the city. But
Uh-huh.
if you ask me now, okay, so do you want to go back? No, that's not really the case.
Uh-huh.
It's just something that I mean, I haven't been to the Philippines for over 4 years now, so you can
Okay.
imagine the feeling, right? When it comes to food, the reason why I said that, it's funny because before I barely eat Filipino food. The only reason
Mm,
why I eat Filipino food is because, say, my grandmother made it or my nannies made it. It's not something I would.
mm-hmm.
But since moving, I started, making my own food here, because you would figure that, because, Sweden is a country of, I think, 12, 13 million people. And
Yeah, it's pretty
not
small.
compare
Mm-hmm.
that to the Bay, because the Bay Area in itself as a state is I mean, sorry, as an area is a melting pot. So which
Yeah,
means lots of
you have it everywhere.
Filipinos in here, no. So you
I'm
kind of
sure, like it's hard to get. I mean, you get like Chinese food probably, you get burgers, you get I mean, I don't know. I don't pizza
yeah.
probably, but yeah, I'm sure like in a small town you don't get like a big variety of international cuisines.
Yes, exactly. So you're left to make your own. And since the
Uh-huh.
ingredients are also limited and different, so the taste would be
Yeah, it's
the taste
different.
will be somewhat affected. And so I do miss that. So it's funny because whenever I visit home, whenever I go back to the Bay and see my family, the first like first order of business, one of the firsts would be I go to Jollibee or
Oh, I
Jollibee.
thought you go to Senor Sisig.
Or that one too, right? Because we don't have those restaurants here.
Yeah.
Or it's not even a restaurant, it's just like fast food, because it gives you this richness, there's a
Yeah.
taste that comes with it. um and generally, like, I mean, the taste of food here is a bit bland.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so of course the contrast makes you want to eat Filipino food or Asian food to be, yeah, every now and then. So
Yeah, that makes
I miss
sense.
the climate too, by the way, because when I used to live in the Philippines, almost like every 2, 3 weeks, I would go to the province and just do my dives, because I am a rescue diver too. So one of my hobbies is to fun dive or to do all sorts of
Nice.
certifications along the lines of diving. And then, of course, living in the city, I do pole. I mean, you see it back there that I do have my own pole here. I do pole fitness, and back in the Philippines, I go to a dance studio where I had my teachers, and I had all this like program for me, and I do it every
Mhm.
Friday. I do dance. I do all these types of pole fitness. But in here, you have to go to the city, right? Like you have to
Right.
take a train, and it's not as accessible. That's why I have my own. So, but it's different when you kind of train with other people. It pushes you to, you know,
Yeah,
to
it's
perform.
different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are like perks as well when you work with other, or when you dance, or when you train with other people.
I think it always is like small town life in general. Like my friend said the other day as well, like even for example, when you are a teenager growing up in a small town, you don't even get the same education. And I never thought of that. It's like because, for example, you like art or you like tech or design or anything, it doesn't necessarily give you the options to go
Mhm.
into that direction. It's just like you go to that
Mhm.
school that is available to you.
Yeah, yes. I actually wanted to add on that point, because when I was living in the Philippines, and my family still lived in the Philippines, versus here. When it comes to the topic of education, I think I just got used to the idea that if you want the best education, you have to pay. Uh,
Okay.
so, my parents, we studied in a good school, in a very exclusive school.
Mhm.
So there's this notion that we got the best education, so on and so forth, and which we appreciate with our parents, because that also meant that they had to
That's
work hard.
yeah.
But here, for some reason, it's like, okay, well, if you're from Engelholm, just an example, then by default you study somewhere nearby. and it's not gonna be looked up or down. It's pretty much all the same.
All the same. I mean, but Swedish isn't Sweden like one of the top educating systems in the world? Like the school system, isn't it like rated super high?
You may be right, but this is what I'm saying. It's like it's
Yeah.
a difference in thoughts, or it's a
Yeah.
difference in, and also in the US, right? If you think about it, like in order for you to get into, like, you really have to pay.
Yeah, you
Like,
have to pay.
school is
Yeah.
supposed to be free, school is supposed to be, so it's state owned. I mean, it's state run rather.
Yeah,
So
which is nice.
just
Yeah.
different.
So you don't have to worry about this. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you already kind of mentioned it, but how did you make friends?
Oh, and here, so the way that I made friends initially when I moved here is through my then partner, right? Because of course
Mm-hmm.
he has his friends here, and
Yeah.
apparently my friends are just spread globally. They're quite like me, because
Okay.
if you have different businesses or ventures, you tend to move around too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's also one. So I made friends here by actually getting to know his friends and then eventually going out with his friends. But I realized eventually that that's not really the right way. So um, I didn't really put enough like investment the first years because I was so comfortable having my own friends, even if they're not, because even if they're not here, because I'm the type of person who just got used to remote relationships,
Mm-hmm.
professional, personal. So I would have like Skype calls with them every week, so on and so
Uh-huh.
forth. But now that I'm like more decided to be here, like I said, I just started joining expats in Engelholm. We created our own group. We're even gonna have an event tomorrow, so now I could say that um, I have my own group, and
Mm-hmm.
this group acts as like my support system. This is like my world. This is like one of my planets in my solar
Okay.
system, rather than saying that it is my partners, which is good because
Yeah,
you really
which
have
is
your own thing going on
yeah.
too. So I made friends because one day I just realized, I said, I really have to do it. I really have to find my footing here.
Yeah.
So that was my first step. So I started joining Facebook groups, like hiking groups, and then I found this group, Expats in Engelholm, which is suitable for me because with my experiences, it's really hard to explain to someone who hasn't gone through the same experience
Uh-huh.
or similar.
Okay. No, so it's so you are very proactive.
Yes.
So so your friends are most likely the other expats, or do you have also a lot of Swedes?
I do have a lot of expats friends.
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, I guess I was gonna say friends. I don't know if I should. Well, I do consider because my partner's ex-wife, the
Uh-huh.
mother of my
The
bonus
kids?
kid.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we're actually close. I consider her my
Oh.
best
Oh,
friend.
that
So
is nice, actually.
we would hang out. Then I could consider she's a full, like, she was born and raised here, right? So
Uh-huh.
so very sweet, so to speak, not having any international mindset or
Mm-hmm.
experience, nothing like that. So we hang out every other week. And then my partner's mom, I consider her my friend too because we see each other almost every week and we plan our walks, our fika, our shopping. But
Okay. Oh, but that is funny because you just mentioned that the family is very distant
yes,
in
yes. But
Swedish.
I am, yes, exactly. So
Uh-huh.
I actually see his mom more than
Yeah.
and his brother too. So
But
I'm the one
but
hanging out with his.
yeah, but it must be nice for the mom too. It's like, oh, I'm so involved in the family. So
Yeah.
different than the other ones.
I think it's just nice to. It feels comforting to build relationships that is just outside your romantic
Uh huh.
relationship.
Yeah.
Sense. So that's why if I were to answer your question, then I do have mix. I do have friends who happen to be expats, like expatriates, and I also have friends who happen to be, I can consider like a proper Swede, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. But so when you meet with your partner's mom, do
Mhm.
you speak Swedish then with her?
No, no, she
No.
really speaks fluent English.
Okay.
Now I think I would have to start because I have to practice.
Well, but that would be a great opportunity, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So they're backing me up. They really are very supportive of it. And they were like,
Uh-huh.
come on, you have to speak, and then we can train you. But I'm the one. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's easy if you go into old patterns, right? Especially if you know everybody around you speaks English so well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
I think I'm just lucky in the way that my partner really speaks. My partner speaks fluent English, as well as his mom and everyone else. I think.
Uh-huh.
But can you imagine if that weren't the case?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is really hard. Then it's like there's no communication.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And communication is important because if language serves as a barrier, you can only connect to a certain extent. Like you cannot go deeper if you cannot communicate
Yeah.
and use your words in a deeper way as well, right?
Mm,
So I think it is important.
yeah. All right. I think we have all my questions covered.
That's great.
That was
I
really nice. I really appreciate it. That was really nice conversation.
thank you. And I also was able to get to know you through this podcast, like the background of your parents, how you were raised. So I do think that it also is important for me to get to know you, and I was able to do that through this podcast. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was Catherine's story. Wasn't it inspiring about the dinners with expats where everybody brings food from their home country? I thought that's such a great idea. And yeah, maybe one of you listeners will do that now too. Let me know for sure. I would also love to join one of them. I love trying food from all kinds of countries. So that was it for this week. I hope you liked this episode and you will tune in again next week. If you are a frequent listener to this podcast, don't forget to give me 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. If you haven't done it already, that would help me immensely to get more listeners. And if you want to tell me your story, then please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can send me an email at worldscollide123pod@gmail.com, or you can just reach out to me on Instagram. It's worldscollidepod, one word, or on Threads or on TikTok as well. So I hope you will tune in again next week. Until then, you will hear me next week. Bye.